Hello, and welcome to another installment of a podcast named Scooby-Doo Extra. Now, for anybody who may be unfamiliar with what these extra episodes are all about, essentially it is a showcase for anything like reviews of Scooby-Doo media, the bonus features that I create, like the commentaries, and also for any time-specific conversations that don't really fit into the long-form interview format of the podcast proper. And in the case of today's episode, with the release of the brand new Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island Terror Time Collector's Edition Blu-ray being released, I thought it would be fun to invite to the show a couple of the people who helped usher that release to market, as well as do a quick little review of the Blu-ray itself. So the breakdown of how things are going to play out on this episode, the first hour is essentially going to be my conversation with Blair, Zykan, and Matt Dugan from AV Entertainment, who were creative stewards on the project. They were there from the very beginning, helping curate the features as well as just getting this thing produced and out to market. And then once that chat is complete, there will be a short review of the Blu-ray by myself. So in the interest of keeping things short and to the point, I will let you get to the episode. And as previously stated, starting with my conversation with Blair Zykan and Matt Dugan. Hope you enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side. Today I'm welcoming to the podcast Blair Zykan and Matt Dugan, who are responsible for the current Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island Terror Time Collector's Edition Blu-ray, which is was released on the 28th of October and should be available for anybody interested in grabbing it online and potentially physical stores.
It's available online. It's a limited edition release. We'll talk a little bit more about that over the course of the podcast.
All right. And the voice that you just heard was Blair. Blair, could you introduce yourself to the podcast audience?
Sure. My name's Blair Zykan. I head consumer and trade marketing as well as product development for Allied Vaughn Entertainment. And AV Entertainment is the company that has been working with the folks at Warner Brothers to bring to market the Warner Archive Collection titles, which started back in 2009 with 150 classic films and now probably has close to 4,000 wonderful titles that we bring to market. And AV Entertainment also works with a host of other major studios, individual boutique distributors, all the way down to individual filmmakers with about 37,000 titles growing every week from about 350 different content providers.
And Matt, we'll hand it off to you.
Thank you very much. And thanks again, Mike, for having us. So my name is Matt Dugan. I'm a film historian and film producer myself. My film historian side, I have a specialty of all ranges of films, but a very boutique specialty of mine is in animation and legacy catalogs for studios. In particular, like I said, animation and the Hanna-Barbera library, and in particular, the Scooby-Doo franchise as a brand and all the shows and the films throughout the years. So, and Blair and I have worked together for a number of years on a number of different projects, and this was a super fun one to be a part of. This is a project unlike no other. That's why we call it the Terror Time Collector's Edition. So this was definitely a very unique and fun one to be a part of, and right in time for Halloween. So what better time than to release it than now, which is fantastic.
So speaking of the release, we were kind of talking off mic a little bit about how there was actually a Zombie Island release early last year through Warner Archive. It was kind of a bare bones edition. It was a double feature. It featured the Return to Zombie Island as a bonus feature for that release. And I'm kind of curious, something that you commonly hear in the community and a personal bugaboo of mine as well is that we don't see a lot of bonus features, the archival features, the commentaries, the extra stuff on a lot of these Blu-rays and DVDs that get released. And considering it had just sort of been released last year, I was really curious what got this new Zombie Island release off the ground, and
Well, maybe I can help out there, Matt, because you or Mike, you
It's a
raised the
great
very question of
yeah,
like
great question. Yeah.
what led to the to a relatively quick follow-up
Yeah.
of a release,
Yeah.
early in 2000, mid 2024, to now the Terror Time edition in 25. And I think what happened is you're right, it was released as a double feature, and response had been quite favorable. But more interesting, I think it's the fans that helped drive the creation of the Terror Time edition. Both online feedback in forums as well as in various social, media had been great. Glad we have it in a Blu-ray form, but what we really, really would like as fans is a more collectible solo version of the product. And Matt, as I mentioned, Matt and I have, worked together for a couple of years, and Matt was observing the same thing and came to me and said, "I know I can help you do this." And I said, "I know you can too." And so we worked with cooperation and favor of Warner Brothers to put it together. And here we are. And Matt can fill in a little bit more of how it came about from his perspective, because he did a
Yeah.
lot of the creative work behind the sort of what the kind of bonus features that would resonate with fans. And I'll leave it for him to tell more of that story.
Yeah, it was super exciting because, when you have something like Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, which Variety magazine back in 2022, they ranked all the Scooby-Doo films of all time, and this was number one on their entire list. And I brought that up in the commentary and I believe in my essay as well. This film has had so much resonance with, fans of multi-generations. For those who grew up with Scooby-Doo in the 60s and 70s and the 80s, to those who grew up with maybe Scooby-Doo's 80s, 90s that are millennials, to a little bit of Gen Z. So it kind of hit a little bit of everybody. For some, this was their first experience of horror and supernatural, maybe as a kid. For others, it was the first time in which the Scooby-Doo franchise delved into something that was a lot deeper and darker material than had been previously explored. And so I'm putting together a release like the Terror Time Collector's Edition, which again, a lot of films have collector's editions on them. But I said, if we're going to make this and do this right for the fans, it has to be called the Terror Time Collector's Edition. And it's to pay homage to the theme song from the film. And so that was something that, was very critical from day one. And, taking the font from the Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island and, basically putting it at the top with the Scooby-Doo dog tag logo. I mean, it was all those little details to, putting together the inside because, when you're putting together a release such as this, essentially from scratch, you're taking, existing elements, but then you're also taking elements that are maybe new or fresh or from previous releases. So, for instance, for whatever reason in physical media, there's just not, back in the day, there used to be chapter lists all the time. And so whenever we did this Blu-ray release, we put together the chapter list and we put it on the inside and we took it from the DVD, which is really cool and exciting because I know a lot of fans were, a big fan of that because that was a big step up from the VHS physical media from the 90s. So to have it on DVD. So we took essentially the chapters list from that and where we were able to put it on the inside. We were able to honor the mansion from the film. When you get your copy, you see the interior artwork, which is the mansion at sunset, which this mansion is very famous throughout all of like Scooby-Doo history. It's been featured on other Scooby-Doo shows. I referenced that in the commentary track. But from like I said, the artwork, the design, the slip cover, even the essay booklet, and actually the essay booklet was really just a great way to show off all of the artwork, which again, this film is so animated beautifully and just looks gorgeous. And the essay booklet was a way for us to show off just more stills and more just art from the film, which we thought would really resonate with the fans. And like I said, all of that was, handpicked from our, like I said, from an internal process. And that was a really fun, exciting piece. And two other things I'll just kind of point out, which were really cool. On the disc menu, the moment you start playing it, you get a really high quality version of Terror Time. It's Terror Time again, and it plays on the loop on the disc menu, which I know a lot of fans have been wanting, some sort of a high quality version of that song. And so to have it play on the menu on the Terror Time Collector's Edition is really exciting. And then we also added on the scene selections on the disc menu. Like I said, sometimes you normally see the numbers, but we took the chapter titles from the DVD and put those on the Blu-ray, which were really exciting. So fans can easily comb through now. I think we added a bonus chapter for the post-credit scene with Scooby and the cats, but outside of that, we try to, like I said, pay homage as much as possible to all the various physical media releases throughout the years and make this one really special. So.
I do want to qualify. I did say that the previous release was very bare bones, and I have spoken to George Feltenstein, who works with Warner Archive, and we have discussed that a lot of times if they're not adding features, it is because it's just not in the budget to add more features, and they decide to put all of their effort and all their money into the remastering of the film and making sure that it's the best possible transfer. That's kind of like their number one priority. So that's not me saying that is not a dig on the previous release. That's just saying that fans want more content.
Yep.
Well, the beautiful thing is when you have this film by itself on the disc, the film was mastered at the highest quality bit rate, which is really important from a quality perspective to feel that kind of filmic vibe. And like I said, this is, well, like we talked about, it's not a new scan, but when you have the bit rate maxed out and you have a really high quality, like you mentioned in talking to George, like a really high quality presentation, it really just stands out. And like I said, this is a copy that fans are going to have on their shelf forever, and being able to go and pick up and being able to watch whenever they want is something really exciting and special. So that presentation is really key, and that was also part of the release, was making sure we have the highest quality possible presentation.
Touching again just on that original transfer that was done for last year's release, another one of the Warner Archive focuses is to not actually change the original elements. If there's any scratches, they will fix that. But if there's like dust elements on the cell and whatever, like they leave that because that's part of the original presentation. When the Warner Brothers mothership puts something out for commercial release, often we've seen it's gotten some digital smoothing and kind of extra work done to it. We saw that on the Fleischer Supermans. We've seen that on a number of things. You guys preserved like that original master. This is the exact same one. Nothing else has been kind of done to it, right?
This is the same, it's the same transfer and the same master that the feature came out a year or so ago. But what we were able to do is, as Matt alluded to, was because we only had the one film and a couple of featurettes that went on there, we had the room to beef up the bit rate and it at an optimized level, and use that to create, let's say I think the strongest visual experience that we could, given that transfer. And Matt, I think Matt is more expert in some of that area than me, and has spent some time looking at the difference.
And there is a difference because you don't have two films paired on the same disc, so that's one element, right? And you have just this film, and with the bit rate maxed out, it really creates the highest quality presentation. And you're right, Warner in general is very much about quality, and the quality put out, and this release, it looks really great and sounds great, and from a perspective of when you look at something that is of the original transfer, you, like I said, you can kind of see the filmicness of it, how to put it, like I said, the most cinematic feel. I think some people have mentioned maybe the original DVD release, and I know in looking back at the DVD release, because I did watch that in reference to this, it kind of has some, you can feel that, just like I said, that filmic vibe. And again, it's solo, it's by itself on Blu-ray, so it's not having to share that disc space with another title. So the quality is really strong.
Yeah. And just to kind of qualify that comment as well, that's not a dig on the mothership.
Yeah.
That's just there's different expectations from a general retail audience and a more niche kind of collector audience. And that general retail audience is maybe going to not be happy to see what they might view as imperfections, whereas the collectors cherish what, those original kind of imperfections are. So the purpose of asking kind of these questions is just to sort of see like where this Terror Time edition sort of stands, because it is being, promoted as like the collector's edition, and it is kind of this special release, and everybody's super excited about it. So just
This was made for the fans, and I will say I've had collector friends of mine who have reached out and they absolutely love the release, and then I've had friends who are also Scooby-Doo fans, and even some who don't regularly. When you speak of like retail crowd, those who maybe not regularly purchasing DVDs or Blu-rays, but on the special occasion might for a favorite film from their childhood. And I had a friend of mine reach out that I went to high school with who was super thrilled that we put this on Blu-ray, so he was able to then share it with his 3 or 4 year old little kid, which was super exciting because now then you can pass it down on to the next generation. And so they were super so he was super excited that it was able to come out. So like I said, you have a variation of fans. You have fans who have grown up with Scooby-Doo. You have fans who are regular collectors of physical media, fans that are just fans of Scooby-Doo in general, and fans of this title specifically. So you have a very wide range of fans. And like I said, we made this release rather, for the fans, and it's always been for the fans from day one. This was definitely a fan service, and I think, like I said, the biggest way to call out, and I think when you see your copy, and I know you'll be reviewing it on this episode, but when you see the Terror Time Collector's Edition on the front, it just instantly stands out and just brings it home, and you're just like, wow, this is just truly something special to hold in your hands. And that slipcover is just beautiful. So it's really nice.
so you said the fan response was primarily responsible for kind of igniting the spark to get this project going. Was this something that got Warner's attention and they came to you, or was it something that you guys pitched to Warner's?
We, in this particular instance, this was, I would call it a collaboration. Each of us saw, Warner Brothers, you said you'd talk with George Feltenstein. I chat with George regularly, and had chats about the Zombie Island, and we looked at the opportunity. Matt and I had also had separate conversations about Scooby and Zombie Island, and as I may have mentioned before, Matt told me I'd love to help make this edition happen. Matt brings, a unique perspective as a fan and as an historian. Ultimately, uh, took the concept of some of the ideas that Matt had, as well as the ideas that I had, George had, and we ultimately that collaboration led to the sign off to help make it happen with Warner Brothers approval, and then ultimately I give a huge credit to Matt for a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the creative ideas, a lot of the expertise on the subject matter, which when this is important to say, when you talk about, kind of how did it happen? Part of what I think fans will really enjoy on the commentary is the level of research and also just organic knowledge that Matt Dugan's had about the film, about the background of the Scooby franchise, and they're going to have a lot of fun listening to it. I predate all of you guys in terms of I grew up on the original series back in the 70s, and so I learned a lot listening to Matt's commentary, which also brings some Scooby history that isn't even necessarily just the film. And so toward, how did the project come together? I think it's a combination, like I said, a collaboration, but also an enthusiasm, for the project. Fans were the impetus, an enthusiasm for making something special for them. Then that enthusiasm translated in, and it kind of fed on itself to the point where we ultimately said, we're going to try and do this as best we can, and really try and come up with some clever things that the fan base will enjoy and will hopefully resonate with them. And I think it will. Copies are getting the response has been outstanding in terms of sales. And with that, I'll have Matt talk a little bit about from his perspective in terms of some of the origin work that he was involved in.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate all your kind words, Blair. Now, this was very much a collaborative project, and I think that when you have the ability and that kind of creative freedom to, which is what the original filmmakers had, whenever they were making this Zombie Island film in the mid '90s, they had a lot of kind of free range in being able to create the best Scooby-Doo film possible, because much of the '90s for at least the early part of the '90s, outside of a pup named Scooby-Doo and then one other title, there really wasn't much going on for Scooby. And then you had Zombie Island, which completely brought back the franchise in a major way. I mean, since then there's been 36 plus films that have been spun off from this. There's been, two live actions and, a few other direct to DVD films as well. And then there's, a series coming out soon on Netflix. So and then plus the animated film that just came out recently in theaters a few years back. So there's just been so much follow up, and really it started with Zombie Island, reinventing the franchise, the brand of Scooby-Doo for a whole new generation, for what I would consider, millennials and Gen Z. And, I think that, whenever you have that, sort of creative freedom to be able to put together a really exciting release, you really get the best product. And that's what so many fans have said. And whenever they've gotten their copies, they said they love the commentary, which really the commentary is just supposed to be like Zombie Island 101. It's a chance for fans to learn fun facts. There's a lot of, talking about all the different voiceover, actors and actresses in the film. And there's some surprises, and I'll save all of it for the commentary because it's just a really fascinating listen to learn, like, things that you may not have known, who is related to who, or that this was like the last ever production to be recorded at the Hanna-Barbera offices over by Universal City. So I mean it was a pretty big deal, this particular release. And like I said, all the research that's gone into it and the commentary, it's just a very lively track. I know a lot of like I said, fans have responded really well to it, and that was just a great way to kind of bring it home and just kind of present that as a commentary. I love commentaries. I listen to them all the time. So I just try to have the most enthusiastic presentation, and I hope people learn something along the way, which is what ultimately fans have come to love. And then also, I think it's the creating, like I said from before, it's all those elements from the slipcover design to the interior and putting the mansion on the inside. And, even which, if you pay attention to disc artwork, I know collectors will look at this in particular, but a lot of discs nowadays just tend to have text on them. I think they've gone
Yeah.
pretty, essentially basics for most releases. And so I said, look, let's not have just text on this. Let's find a really cool image and we did. And Power Designer did an incredible job, putting Scooby and Shaggy with the zombie on the disc. And that was just another piece to, again, just kind of be outside of the box on this release. Because again, we went all out. We did the slipcover, we did the essay booklet to show off more artwork. We gave a commentary. We really put together the interior artwork, like all these chapters from the origin DVD disc, all these different things. And when you put all that together, it creates a really exciting presentation. But it's ultimately creating the best possible release possible. And like I said, I think we did an incredible job, but it was really teamwork made the dream work. And, Blair and I were able to really, with the whole team being able to put together just a really fun and exciting release. And, truly grateful for the opportunity, but really this was for the fans. And, it's always for the fans. It's not about, anything but just, we want to just continue to deliver fun products for the fans that both collectors and just fans of Scooby in general will be able to honor and cherish. And so that means a lot.
Well, early response that I'm seeing online is that people are loving it so far. I was super excited to see it when it got announced. It's, you know, like you said, in the 90s, there was that kind of Scooby Desert for almost a
It was a
decade.
long desert. Yeah, half a decade. Yeah, yeah.
And I remember I was working in a video store when the first trailers for this came out, and I was kind of like, "Oh, this is exciting," and kind of got to see sort of firsthand from behind the video store counter, kind of the impact that it was having, at least in the community that I was kind of in at the time.
And the
So
marketing was really like on a theatrical level. Like if you really look at it, they
yeah,
really did like the tie-ins with there were like Happy Meal toys, and then there were tie-ins with like, like little race cars and stuff like that. Like I even have like two novelizations that they did, with Scholastic for the film. I mean, they just went really all out on it because it was really originally intended for a theatrical release, but and just seeing the beautiful thing about physical media in the 90s was that, VHS was just such a really cool expanding area. And so, I think that, they saw that and, like I said, and being able to come out with Blu-ray all these years later, 20 plus years later, it just brings it all home and in a really unique way. But that's cool. You worked at a video store as this was coming out. So you got to see that and experience that in real time and you see that feedback, and I'm sure that this went off the shelves like crazy the moment it came out.
the first time I saw it, I took the screener home because we got the screeners in,
Yeah,
and we got them like a week or whatever before release day, and I took it
before
home, and
Sweet
I was like,
Day.
this is awesome." So you mentioned the books, and I never actually heard that this was originally intended as a feature. Everything that I'd ever heard, even speaking to people who worked on the production, was that it was always intended to be aired
Yeah.
on
So one of the
Cartoon Network and then
original
released.
Yeah, no. So one of the original intentions was for it to get a theatrical release, and like I said, and seeing and a lot of the history, they did, a lot of surveying, a lot of feedback, and I think that they saw the potential. Other films were seeing a lot of success in going to direct to video because not a lot. I mean, some had gone, but like 94, 95, 96, but they're just seeing a lot of just really cool feedback in that area. And, I think that that is what ultimately led for it to go to a direct to video piece. But, if you look at it, they really gave it a theatrical marketing
Oh yeah.
treatment. I mean, like the marketing, the adverts, and the way that we put together, even like the marketing. I don't know if you've seen some of the ads or like the banners that we put together. We tried to replicate stuff that you might have seen in like a video store back then, like some of the ads when we first announced the film. We tried to put together like stuff that would as if you were looking through like one of those home video or like Columbia books back in the day or whatnot, like one of those little pamphlets. We try to like just kind of put that together, and just like again, just from the marketing of the way we wanted to piece this together, it was just something that, like I said, we were able to kind of have that creative freedom to put together
Mhm.
something really fun, all the elements, which is really cool.
So I got distracted there by the whole theatrical thing, but you mentioned the
No.
books, you mentioned the theatrical detail. Obviously, we've talked about you've done some research. I'm really curious, what sources, what depths did you plumb to
There,
obtain
there
the
was so much
information?
research. Yeah, it's a great question. There's so much research done on this because, we had, some time to be able to put it together. And so, there was a lot of different, I have a lot of different friends in the industry from, various different areas. And, this was, even like a lot of people might not know this, but like the film score was, which is incredible and fans love it. And, it's a beautiful score and it has quite a range, but it has a very certain sound and feel to it. It was recorded on the same scoring stage that the Psycho score was recorded on, Paramount Studios. Wally was even recorded on there. And so, like even like the mixers and, I can't remember if I comment on this in the commentary or not, but like, the same sound recording mixers of this film, worked on the TV series ER in the 90s and its highlight for a number of years. So, they had a lot of the Warner Post team and they did an incredible job. And, yeah, there was just a lot of research done and, from just an elemental standpoint and, talking to different people that, from externally, that had worked maybe for some of the companies at those various stages and just, getting, and like I said, I've had my own kind of treasure trove of years because I've watched this film since I was like 3 or 4 years old. So this film has meant a lot to me. So I knew stuff like from even way back when, just about certain, talents and, like, for instance, and again, I'll save it for the commentary, but, two of the talent, had come out of the groundlings and which was really exciting. They had trained and one of them was even touring with the Groundlings, which is a very historic comedy troupe. But two of the voiceover actresses. But you'll learn that in the commentary, so I'll save that for then. But it's just fun little tidbits like that, and I think it's also like paying homage to all the voiceover actors. They each get an introduction in the commentary, which is fun. You get that space in a commentary to do that, and so just giving fun facts that a lot of people may not have known about the voiceover talent. And people were, like I said, and reading people's feedback online, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that, or that's so cool to learn, or like I said, they had no idea that the score was recorded on this same stage as where Psycho's score was done. So it's just a lot of cool history, and it's all presented, like I said, there's a essay booklet form, and then there's also the commentary, so people have two different versions. But the essay is just really a condensed version down, of a lot of notes from over time, and then also just being able to show off that artwork, I think was a really fun element.
One tidbit, Mike, on the artwork, which I think the fans will enjoy, is there was not a whole lot of artwork, sort of still imagery in the archives, to plumb and bring out. So one of the things that we did is had Matt watch the film, and having the historical perspective that he has, and knowing he was going to be doing the commentary and doing the booklet, Matt watched and almost frame by frame chose a number of images that
Oh, yeah.
then we captured off the actual digital file, the high definition file. And
We had to
so
go
that
in like by
yielded
time code. So we had to go
by
individually
time
frame
codes.
by
Yeah. So
frame and choose all the frames fresh for the menu. Sorry, not to interrupt, but yeah,
yeah,
that was
exactly.
I forgot about that. That was literally frame by
No, it
frame
was
by
it,
time code. It was a
this was, I
project.
mean, this is hopefully gives everybody an idea of the level of effort that went in, and literally watching and looking at a low def file, choosing the picture, then the authoring team went in and grabbed high def images at the exact time code so that it matched the essay, and then we all also were able to use those for other parts, parts of the packaging. So this
There's a
is
real
all like
labor of
fresh image.
love.
It's fresh
Yeah,
imagery that's
yeah.
never been used before, and that I think will, fans will enjoy.
That's very cool. Part of the reason why I'm kind of excited for this release is, and curious about your research, Matt. I was talking to Blair before you came on the call, and Zombie Island is partly responsible for this podcast existing because back in whatever it was, 2015, 2016, when the first kernels of this kind of came to me, I just finished watching Zombie Island, and I have a tendency to want to go deeper into materials. So I went online looking for podcasts, looking for interviews, looking for whatever, and there wasn't a lot out there. There wasn't a lot that was like easily available. And I thought I could reach out to people. I have a history of interviewing and other podcasts and publications and whatever, but I needed a platform. I couldn't just be like, hey, this is Mike in my basement. I want to talk to Glenn Leopold and Jim Stenstrom and Davis Doy and whatever. So the podcast came to life, and I started reaching out to people and spoke to Glenn and spoke to Steve Bramson, the composer. So that was another aspect of hearing about the release, knowing there was going to be a commentary, hearing about the essay booklet. It was kind of like, yes,
It's like the best of
more
both worlds.
material.
Fans get something that they haven't had before, and like I said, it feels like a Zombie Island 101 because there's going to be fun facts about I talk about all the people you just mentioned are mentioned throughout the commentary in various different aspects. But the true heart of this project is really just showing the how much this film, like you had mentioned, just still holds to this day and is so, and like I said, your podcast or this podcast was started, because of, Zombie Island. And for a lot of people, and for a lot of fans, this just really holds a dear. I mean, like I said, for Variety Magazine, which is an industry trade, to feature Zombie Island as number one. There's been so many Scooby films over the years, but for them to rank Zombie Island as one, and there's other sites that have ranked Zombie Island as number one as well. But for an industry trade, it's the largest variety to really mention Zombie Island. I think that says a lot about this film and its legacy. And like I said, I have a very keen eye for legacy titles from different studios. And again, growing up with this film, I was very, very young while watching this, and so this has held a place in my heart. Actually, and at the back of the essay booklet, there's a really cool picture my mom actually found from whenever I was like maybe 6 or 7 years old, going to watch Scooby-Doo at a movie theater, which has since sadly been torn down. It was one of those like 90s style like movie theaters, or 80s, where like reclined down in, like it was like kind of, it wasn't stadium style seating, but it was like theater went down in type, it was like a mall type theater. But it was just really cool to be able to have that picture on the back. But really, what's cool about that back of the essay booklet picture, I kind of did that as a way of like, if a fan, feel free to like, paste your picture over me. But if you have a picture of like Scooby growing up, or like a picture maybe dressing up for Halloween or whatever, like put that there, and that's a great place for you to kind of, honor the year, whatever, however, maybe there's a picture recently you took with Scooby, or whatever it is, a place for you to kind of, pay homage in a way for yourself with this title on the back of the essay booklet. You can clip it, you can, paste it on there, but, like I said, you can, paste over me all day long, like I said, but that picture, it's cute, it's sweet, but it's really also a place where if a fan wants to put a picture and just kind of, put it there, we kind of made it that space for fans to be able to do that, which really nobody has done before, which is also kind of special about this release. So it's on the back of the essay booklet.
So Blair, I'm going to put you on the spot. Matt's bona fides are pretty clear here. You mentioned that you were watching the Scooby cartoon as a kid in the 70s. What's your background with Scooby?
I would say mine is more of a typical fan who, and it depends on your age. For me, the original series is how I came in contact with it, and always enjoyed the show. My kids then subsequently began watching some of the films, and then being a part of working with the folks with Warner Brothers, re-energized, and getting a chance to work with Matt has really, like I said, for me, the most interesting part of the project was listening to Matt's commentary for the first time before anybody else had had a chance to listen to the commentary and watch the film. And I remember my reaction was, people are going to have fun with this. I had fun with this. I'm an older fan in terms of the original material. And it really, like I said, re-energized a little bit of my relationship, but had me thinking back of moments, when I was a kid. And I think that's probably the universal appeal of Scooby, and the fact that it's had a 60-year run practically now, or getting, close to that. I think it'll do the same for others as well.
So did either of you experience any surprises putting this together? Anything that a piece of trivia or history or like archival piece that you were just like, oh, I did not expect to find that?
So I'm not gonna. Matt's commentary is so fun and so filled with trivia that I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But I will say there are all sorts of it, of fun surprises, and I'll Matt's alluded to a few, and I'm gonna try to hold his purse string so he doesn't give away too much candy,
But that
but
commentary track is truly just
it's
something,
chock
it's
full.
fun.
It's chock full, and
Yeah.
so
You learn a lot.
there were more surprises than I could count.
Awesome. Zombie Island was the start of a quartet of films. The success of it obviously led to Witch's Ghost and then Alien Invaders and the Cyber Chase. Mostly the same crew working on it, all animated by Mook Animation in Japan. It's kind of, most fans view them as being of a piece. And, you'd commented that people were really looking forward or really hoping for like a solo release of Zombie Island. I've also seen people talking about kind of wanting the other three as individual releases as well, possibly even like a set kind of thing. Um, I'm presuming if there's a really good response to this, that there might be like a potentiality for maybe something exciting down the road.
Well, one great question. Neither Matt nor I can speak for Warner Brothers, and even if we knew, we couldn't tell you. But what, just bound by confidentiality, we're hopeful, and we're gratified with the response that's happening so far. Great success tends to make, things more things possible, but I can't speak for anything that would happen. And what I would say is the best way for something like that to happen is for great support of the releases that are coming out, and showing that the fan base for Scooby is robust and is wanting to support the kinds of things that we've done with Scooby on Zombie Island.
Actually, to drop George into the conversation again, a perfect example. They've just recently, in the last couple of years, they've started a new series of Looney Tunes releases, and with every release, it's always been like there's more. So, like, as if there's a good response to this, like it tells the people up above that there's an interest, and so far, like the volumes keep coming because the response is there and people are buying. So, if that's any indication, if not the other movies, obviously this tells Warner Brothers we definitely want more Scooby.
Well, we've been and then at AV Entertainment, we've been involved in all the Looney Tunes releases, and I think what's been exciting for us is the enthusiastic embrace of the collector for this classic animation. It really has been it's been a lot of fun to be a part of. It's almost been timeless in terms of we've got young collectors, older collectors. It's just been terrific,
It's
and
nostalgia.
a lot of nostalgia, and really, I think it shows that's good art that has been around for a long time, and older classic animation. There's good modern animation, but there's really good quality cinematic art that went on with all those titles, and Scooby's a part of it.
Yeah, it's nice to see Hanna-Barbera getting some of the attention again. And
I
I mean,
agree.
Touche Turtle just got released. I never would have expected that to
Mhm.
happen.
I'll put in a plug, for that. And just so, not knowing, I wanted to make note that this is it is Terror Time is a limited collector edition.
Yes, very
Uh,
limited. Yes.
and the sales have been robust. And so we are, you will see very few retailers have it. I think by the time your podcast comes out, but moviezing.com has still has inventory, and we've done that purposefully so that we can make sure you've got some of the folks listening to this podcast. We've got a little you can go to www.moviezing.com, and the Scooby title is right on the front page. And so I would encourage, if there is a desire, if you want to have a part of this title, we're only doing one pressing
Yeah.
of the collection. And so it truly is
A limited
a limited
edition.
edition
Yeah,
collectors.
this is it.
I would say easily 80% through. That's already been sold through into consumers at this point. So go to MovieZing, and you'll be able to put in an order.
So once you have a sell through of this original pressing, the only one available is going to be last year's Warner Archive release.
There will be last year's available, and then and then I guess we'll have to take a look at, well, then what does the future hold, after that?
Fair enough. Are you guys handling the Tom and Jerry release?
AV Entertainment is handling the Tom and Jerry release as well.
I'm so
And
excited for that.
that's, classic, classic films, like I
Can't
said,
wait.
my youth was from the days that there were three television channels, and Saturday morning was when you got to watch cartoons, and that's when I had unfettered access to the television set and Tom and Jerry, and gosh, I could name you a litany of the classic cartoons
And
that
even like a show like Top Cat. I remember whenever when that
Bobcat,
film came
Dusty
out
and
with the DVD and
Skyhawks,
then it
Hot
came out on
Wheels.
Blu-ray.
There's
Yeah.
some just terrific old cartoons. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I'll close out with one last question. As we've mentioned before, the franchise has been going for nearly 60 years now, and clearly still a ton of excitement for the material that's out there, old and potentially new. What do either of you think is the reason why these characters in this franchise has such staying power and has persisted over many decades?
They're very well established characters, and all of them, the from Scooby to the whole Mystery Machine and the gang. I think that they all these characters from Fred, Daphne, Velma, they all Shaggy, it just resonate with fans and have been able to hold the test of time through multiple different spin-offs and so many different follow-up films from Zombie Island. Like I said, 36 plus over the years and still counting, and live action films, and I think they're just very relatable characters, and I think that they all just hold a very special place in everyone's hearts. And I think that, like I said, a lot of it goes back to childhood. I know for me that was my experience. I know other people that was their experience. I know you guys watched it as kids and you worked at the video store when this came out. Like there's so many different parallels and so many different generations experiencing Scooby. And like I said, we're now in 2025 and going to 2026, and now a whole new wave of fans are about to rediscover Scooby through this new Netflix series. So I think there's so much there, and I think there's still a lot of stories to tell. And I tell you, what's really fascinating is the ability for so many monsters. Well, Zombie Island's a little bit different in that category, but there's been so many monsters, but they're still able to carry it out through every episode and every film and have so many twists and turns, and still being able to have a little of that slapstick comedy with the humor mixed in with the horror and the scary. It blends so well. And like I said, I think it's held the test of time and through all these spin-offs, and it's still going. So, and here we are in what, 2025, 60 plus years. It's an incredible run, but I just think they all hold a very special place in everyone's hearts. They're very well written characters, and they all have very dynamic range, which is really cool. So
I think echoing on what Matt said, all correct. The In an overall wholesome friendship kind of theme that just continues to carry through with not just the characters themselves, but the plot lines have recognizability, but also little twists and evolution over time. But the I think it's a series that me watching when I was a kid feel good about my kids watching when they were kids, and youngsters today. And I think to me that's a part of it as well.
it's something that all ages can experience together, from adults to kids, and everyone has a very fun sort of familiarity or just a memory of that somehow, some way with any of the characters. And like I said, some, based on who you talk to, some are really big fans of Scooby and Shaggy together. Some are fans of the Mystery and the Gang. Some of them, loved, Shaggy whenever, during the 80s, he had the red going on. And actually, when you look at it, during the 80s, forgot to mention this, but like the gang was pretty much broken up. Like you had Shaggy
Hmm.
and Scooby in the films, but you didn't really have the Mystery Gang. So, this was kind of like the first time where the gang was all literally back together. Same in the 2002 live action James Gunn film. Shout out to that one. James Gunn did an incredible job, writing those, but, it's just a way to bring everything just back together, and these themes of like friends, and people break up and then people come back, and like I said, they still were able to find those two films kind of share a very unique parallel there in that retrospect. But yeah, it's just a film and a franchise that everyone can trust, everyone loves, and just feels a familiarity. And like I said, people connect with different characters in different ways, but I think that's what makes everybody so unique, and the fan base so lovable. And like I said, I love all the Scooby fans. I'm a Scooby fan myself, but I feel like everybody's very passionate. Like there's fans who will repost the background artwork from the shows that are very interconnected with all the background work throughout the years, the background designs, to fans who are fans of like all the current merch, or like the Funkos that have come up, or like any of the collectibles items. They repost those, or like posters throughout years, and they collect various different physical toys, or stuffed or plushies of Scooby throughout the years. So there's just a lot of how to put it, just resonance with that. And I think it just holds that special place in the heart that just other franchises don't have that same vibe. It's a show that can scare you, but it's also a show that can make you laugh. And it started with a laugh track. So
Right.
I mean,
There you
it
go.
started like that, but it has a great way to blend horror and comedy together.
So is there anywhere, do you guys have places on social media that you like to be found?
Yeah, so movie Zing, has Facebook and Instagram and social media. Blair, if you want to share
Mhm.
that, you can.
Yeah, Facebook, Moviezing, Moviezyng. Just do a quick search on that. You'll see that page, and then that'll be becoming more active. It's where you will find Tom and Jerry comes out. You're going to see it
You're
there,
gonna see right there.
or as well
Follow,
as
follow
on
it.
moviezyng.com. One of the exciting things that actually we're really excited about, Mike, is Movie Zing, the web store, is undergoing a mammoth refresh. Packaged media, DVD, collectors, Blu-ray, 4K. Really going to like it. It's where you can find all 37,000 titles that AV Entertainment carries. We will, with this refresh that will, I think, less than 45 days, could be less than 30 days away. Way easier to shop. This is going to be maybe the most consumer-friendly shopping experience. All sorts of ways to discover your way through the 37,000 titles, shop either by genre, shop by, the top studios, go into, oh gosh,
It's a very special place. I'll say
yeah,
that.
it's gonna be a great experience.
Fans will
So
love it, and
yeah, so I would say both, and then we'll be on Instagram as well. We're just getting started, working a little bit with Matt on getting that going. So anyway, that's how you find us.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for this opportunity, and we thank all of you at home for listening, and for listening and watching this podcast, and hope that everyone has a chance to get their copy of this limited edition. Can't say that enough. It is truly a limited edition. It's a one press run, but I would say get your copy if you haven't already, and you can still get it from Moviezing, and yeah, get your copy in. But thank you so much for this opportunity, and we could talk about Scooby all night, but it's been a fun one. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Likewise, Mike, a pleasure to get to know you better, and great to be getting more connected to the Scooby fan base.
It's great to have you both on, and looking forward to future releases and possibly having you on the show again. Hey gang, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Blair Zykan and Matt Dugan, and this is the point where we are going to transition into talking about the Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island Terror Time Collector's Edition Blu-ray in my review of the disc. So I'm going to state plainly right off the bat, I am not a hardcore AV guy, and I'm not watching for every instance of artifacting or other overly technical stuff. I don't really have the desire to do that. I also don't really have the equipment to do that. So I will point out obvious things if they occur, but for the most part, I'm not charting bit rates on graphs or doing, frame by frame comparisons. I have seen some criticisms of this release online, and I do plan to actually address a few of those because some of them do dovetail with some of my feelings about this release, and some of them I think are kind of unfair. So I thought it would be a good idea to kind of incorporate some of those and just kind of fold it all into one big kind of potpourri of criticism, I guess. I should also point out, as one should in these instances, that AV Entertainment did provide me with this copy of the film, and that my review is solely my opinion. Now, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island Terror Time Collector's Edition was released on October 28th by AV Entertainment. It is the second release for this film on Blu-ray, previous one being the double feature released under the Warner Archive banner earlier last year. I think it was May. For this edition, AV has given the film a solo release, something that fans have been clamoring for, with a modest offering of bonus features. The film is presented on a single BD25 in its original 1.33 by 1 aspect ratio and includes an English DTS HD 2.0 master audio track. It comes in a Blu-ray case with nice artwork, recreating the poster artwork from the original film, and it also comes with a cardboard slipcover. The insert is a double-sided image of Ravenscar Manor on the inside, and there is also a 12-page booklet that features an essay by Scooby superfan and historian Matt Dugan, who also provides the disc's primary bonus feature, an audio commentary track. The only other feature on the disc is a retailer's promo trailer that runs about 3.5 minutes, and it features scenes from the film as well as some production artwork. So, what did I think of this release? Well, let me first say, from a collector's standpoint, I think this is probably the best way to currently own Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. AV has used the most recent master of the film with an expanded bitrate, so it's honestly the best this movie has probably ever looked. In the tradition of most Warner Archive releases, grain structure and minor flaws are maintained and do preserve the original presentation of the film. I think it looks pretty great. Also, kudos to the team for keeping that aspect ratio intact. I've seen way too many other releases out there in the world where the fear of the black bars on the right and left of the screen is strong enough for the company releasing the film or show to zoom in on the image and create a faux widescreen image by cutting out some of the screen. It's the 21st century pan and scan. So I did love seeing the 1:33 aspect ratio maintained on this release. I also think the film sounds pretty great, and once again, I appreciate the use of the original 2.0 master audio. Granted, creating a 5.1 mix would mean spending more money to create one, but I am a strong proponent of keeping the fidelity of a film's original presentation, or at least making sure it's an option on the disc. So if they did do a 5.1 mix, I would have liked to have still seen the original 2.0 master audio included. Regardless, I think it's a solid audio track, and the overall audiovisual presentation of this film is very much on the up and up, and definitely gets this reviewer's approval. As for the bonus features, the fact that we're getting any is a huge victory for fans and collectors alike. Warner Brothers Scooby releases have eschewed bonus features for far too long, and it is a welcome sight to see someone making any kind of effort to include something extra with this release. The commentary is a nice inclusion, and Dugan does share a fair amount of trivia about the film and the actors appearing in it. The booklet is also well put together, and the retailer promo was interesting to see, as I hadn't watched it since probably 1998. Now, to be fair, the commentary and the book are kind of the only things included in this release as a bonus that isn't available in some form somewhere online. But one of the things that I do like about physical media is when it kind of puts the material all together in one place. So you don't have to go on different devices to different sites and different places and try and find the things. You could just pop in the disc and stuff is there. So not really a criticism, just an observation. To address my criticisms of the release, though, along with the other online criticisms that I've seen, I'm going to speak now why I think some of those criticisms, while valid, probably do have some reasons behind them. Number one, why a re-release? Is this a double dip? Well, yes and no. While it is kind of a double dip, it is also an attempt to show what the brand can support in the physical media market. While the double feature last year is the same transfer of the film, having this come out as a solo release with its own dedicated packaging and artwork, it is something. The fact that it didn't have that previously tells me that Warner Brothers wasn't sure if releasing it independently was a financially viable prospect. Releasing media costs money, and they are looking at getting a return for their efforts. This release happened because of the success of the previous one, and there was a desire to try and put out a disc aimed at collectors, not just the moms and kids. So, double dip? Yes, but one that I do think is justified, and I'm glad the attempt was made. Another criticism I've seen are, why aren't there more bonus features? And this is probably, if I had to criticize the disc for anything, this is probably the big one for me as well. I love features. I mean, part of my podcast's mandate is to create commentaries for episodes because Warner Brothers mostly chooses not to. That said, bonus features do require time and money to put together. And while I would have loved to see cast and crew interviews, production artwork, something on the music, Scott Innes's audition audio, anything like that included, I have no idea if they had the assets available to them or the time or money to include them with the release. The gang at AV Entertainment had a go-ahead from the mothership to produce a new disc with some features, and this release is kind of testing the market. I'm sure as time goes on, if the market is there to support these releases, we will see more robust features offered on future discs. One of the catch-22s of physical media, whether it's movies or comics or whatever, sometimes you have to release a thing that maybe isn't as complete or robust as you would like, kind of to test the waters, kind of to test the market and see if the market will actually support the release. Now, this kind of does end up biting you in the behind a little bit because people do see things as, it's a double dip, but you're not going to necessarily put all your eggs in a basket that you don't know if it's going to sell. So you kind of hedge your bets. You put something together that you think is quality and worthwhile, and you release that. And, if there's interest, if there's demand, if you go, oh, hey, this thing, makes money, there may be an attempt down the line, or at least with future releases, to try and make more robust features included. Also, as the movies go along, there may be more opportunities to do that with people who've worked on the discs or what's available in the archives as far as behind the scenes artwork or stuff like that. I have heard that there was a crew that did film behind the scenes stuff during the making of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, so there may be material out there, but again, I have no idea what AV had to deal with as far as timelines or what they had access to. That could all just be raw footage. It may need to be, edited together. There's so many factors that go into these things that I end up kind of on both sides of the fence where I'm both, hey, I want more stuff, but also I understand why there maybe isn't more stuff. Back when DVDs first came out, special features often referred to really basic things like animated menus, chapter selection, and theatrical trailers. What a lot of people don't realize is that in a lot of ways, we're kind of back to that point with a lot of big studio releases. I've seen some criticisms about the chapter titles being, referred to in podcast interviews and stuff where Matt has appeared. And they're like, oh, well, that's not a bonus feature, or that's not something to talk up. It kind of is. It's not something major, But it is something extra that this team had to do. They wanted to maintain the fidelity of the original DVD release and the original chapter titles, and they could have just put it in there with numbers. It's not major, but it's an extra little flourish. And I understand for a lot of people that might not be something that they care about. They might just be like, bah, I want all the bells and whistles or nothing. And that's fine. Don't buy the disc. This is not for you. And that brings me to the commentary. I've read a lot of people online saying, why aren't there more creatives or cast members involved? To be fair, a number of people that are involved with these films don't really talk about them much for reasons that are their own. I actually do discuss that situation a bit with Lance Falk way back in episode 3 of this podcast. So if you want to learn more about that, you can hit the feed later and check that out. As for the other cast or crew, they may not have been available. There may have been other obstacles. Warner discs don't often include commentaries anymore. Not even just Warner discs. Like, commentaries are not as common as they used to be. It used to be kind of a given, and now it really is a special feature. It just may not be a priority for the studio. And unless I'm mistaken, I think a couple strikes back, I do believe it was negotiated that any feature-length bonus features, which is like 60 minutes or more, would require additional payment outside of the usual promo expectations for actors and the like, which is also why a lot of discs have turned into offering shorter featurettes and EPKs over the years, rather than some of the really robust, interesting making of documentaries. So yeah, it would have been amazing to have some primary sources contributing to the commentary, but there aren't, at least not for this release. Perhaps in the future, with fans making their voices heard through purchasing the disc and posting about what they would have liked included, we may see more robust releases in the future. This release exists because people were responding to the previous double feature and talking about how they wanted a solo release. So that's a perfect example of something came out in a form that was added to because of the way people responded to the previous release. So, is the Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island Terror Time Collector's Edition Blu-ray a perfect home run of a release? Probably not. Given the time and resources, I could think of a lot of stuff that I would have liked to have seen included with this offering. That said, this is still a really nice effort and a great sign that there is attention being paid to this market and this franchise in a way we haven't seen in decades, really. The packaging is top-notch, the transfer is excellent, and I'm really happy with the overall presentation. This is probably the best version of the film available right now, and if you're a fan, it's definitely worth jumping on it and getting a copy for yourself before they're gone. If you listen to the conversation previous to this, this is a limited release. And also, if I remember something that George Feltenstein said on a podcast somewhere, it's kind of the first 3 or 4 weeks after a release that are kind of really important for sales metrics, kind of like how an opening weekend is really big for a release of a movie. So if you do have an opportunity and you are interested, I would definitely recommend getting this version of the film right now if you're a fan. If you're more of a casual viewer, I think you'll probably be happy enough with the existing double feature from last year or even the DVD. As far as me, I'm really happy this disc exists. I'm really happy that I have it on my shelf, and I'm really happy that there are folks at WB and AV who are invested and interested and willing to put a bit of a spotlight on these characters and these films. According to Blair, he said they've already got about an 80% sell-through, so that's super exciting, and I have high hopes for future releases. I'd even be open to another swing at Zombie Island somewhere down the road if they can plus it again and add some more stuff to it. Like I said at the top, I kind of wanted to address some of the criticisms because I do think that the internet can be really unfair, and I do think there are often reasons behind why releases are the way they are. They're not a lack of effort or a lack of interest. there's a lot of obstacles to getting these things out. And yeah, there is a lot of material out there that would have been cool to see, but maybe next time. And I do hope there is a next time. Really excited to see what AV and Warner's come up with next. As for what I'm going to come up with next, my next episode is going to be another extra episode, actually. It's going to be a celebration of 10 years of Be Cool Scooby-Doo. I have Zach Moncrief and John Colton Berry returning to the show. Yeah, we talked for a really long time. It's going to be a big episode, and really looking forward to getting that out there because, as I'm sure a lot of you know, I kind of identify my show with Be Cool Scooby-Doo, and I was always a big advocate of it, and we kind of came out around the same time, so it just felt right to have Zach and John come on and talk about all this stuff. I want to thank Blair and Matt for coming on the show and talking about this release. Really appreciate them giving their time to answer my questions, and also for providing me with a review copy of the film. I do look forward to whatever these guys have kind of on deck for more releases as far as HB and Scooby-Doo are concerned. So I'm sure we'll be seeing them on the show again at another time in the future. I do appreciate you checking out the podcast, and if you want to continue supporting the show, like, share, and subscribe with whatever provider that you are using to capture this pod and listen to it. Sharing episodes on your social media is also a really nice way of promoting the show and getting it out there, as well as if there's an opportunity to review the show, that helps feed the algorithm and get the show in front of eyes and ears that may be interested in the kind of material that I produce, but just don't know that I exist. You can catch me on social media. I am Scooby-Doo Cast on Blue Sky, a podcast named Scooby-Doo on Instagram. You can email me at scoobypodcast@gmail.com. And there's also the Facebook page and WordPress. There's the WordPress blog where I post infrequently, but when I do, it is occasionally a little micro interview about the Scooby Apocalypse variant cover artists, talking about their experience providing covers for that series. And I think that's it for me. Don't really have anything else to add, so thanks again for joining me for this episode. Once again, go and grab yourself a copy of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island at moviezing.com, moviezing.com. And I'd be curious to know what you think of this release. So if you're catching this on YouTube or anywhere where there's an opportunity to comment, or even if you want to comment on Blue Sky or on the social media anywhere, Instagram, whatever, I'm curious what everybody else thinks of this release. So I welcome any and all input that you may have. So thanks again. Stay safe, stay well, and we will see you next time on a podcast named Scooby-Doo. Are you kidding me? Oh, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, you're good. It didn't cut out. You're good. You're good. No, you're good.
I thought I crashed again.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Got that. Just a little editing needed. There you go.